welcome back to Rounding the Bases Extra Innings on YouTube. I've got 4 final questions for Kiona Sinks. Highly encourage you to listen to our audio episode of the podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. It's a very informative, very deep podcast with a lot of inspiration, stories, background, and storytelling. So I really encourage that. But I'll start with a nice little softball, pardon the pun. My first question as we round the bases. You still got a little fascination with some ice cream?
I do. Ice cream is still brewing. It's still going. I'm excited because now with the NBA over, a lot of creativity and planning has started to really enter mentally, and exciting things are in the works because I've got a name and starting to take some URLs off GoDaddy and all kinds of stuff. So it's exciting. Ice cream will always be until we can get a brick and mortar up. Hopefully I can name a scoop after you one day.
I am all in on that. I'll come work there a little bit too. Kiona's dream is to open up an ice cream shop, and don't doubt her. Don't doubt her on anything because she'll do it. I don't know when, because I don't even know when you would have the time, but I know when it happens, it'll happen.
It'll happen. I don't know when, but it will happen.
You got to, in your head, I'm not talking about a creation. I'm not asking you to give anything away, but if you walk into your ice cream shop, oh, Kiona's here. She's the owner. Let's get that scoop ready. What's it going to be?
Man, that's a good question, because when I'm learning and talking to people who are more skilled than me with culinary, you need to have some vegan options, some gluten-free stuff. So I don't know. I just want it to be a representation of everybody. So you feel welcome, but also there's something for you. So I don't want anyone to leave my parlor and not be able to find something on the menu that they can eat, and that's fitting for them. So yeah, I'm excited about all the things. And like you said, we don't know when exactly that's going to happen, but it has definitely been a long time dream of mine to open an ice cream parlor, because that's where me and my grandmother, we shared so many memories together growing up. A lot of people don't know, in Jonesboro, Arkansas, when I was born and raised, after school, I vividly remember my grandmother literally picking me up, and, 4th of July holidays, just all these different things. And she would just always take me to Sonic, and we would just get me 2 scoops and a cone. And then sometimes I would just drive my bike over to this lady who sold ice cream out of her house. She gave me 2 quarters, do my homework. That was my treat. So just got those great memories. And so that's what the inspiration is behind opening the parlor in her honor. So
second question, as we round the bases, I remember when you and I met, this is going to be a question about connecting with people, building relationships. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you knew or I knew that we would go on to essentially feel like family, and the relationship that we have and you have with my family as well. But I was moved when you reached out to me at the way you connected. It was essentially a cold call. Maybe we knew some mutual people. You reached out, you wanted me on your podcast. But we live in a day and age now where, because technology makes it so easy to connect with anyone that we don't know, that people have actually forgotten how to be genuine and connect. And there aren't a whole lot of manners often, and people just expect something back. And it's a weird time. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like people have forgotten how to do this, or maybe they just don't have that skill. And I found, being inundated on a pretty regular basis by people I don't know. Hey, can you do this? Or, hey, book an appointment here. I'm like, wait, you didn't even ask yet. And you had the exact magic touch of how to go about it, where I was like, oh yeah, this sounds cool. She seems nice. I'd be happy to do it. I'm wondering how much, of a skill, if that's who you are, the way you were raised, because it's an incredible skill to have. And I would imagine one that serves you very well with the museum as well, when you're constantly looking for new donors and connections and building that rapport.
Yeah, my grandmother really, she vicariously didn't teach me that, but how she had that rapport with other people, and that respect and building that foundation was just so critical to me as I got older. And, you don't appreciate those things until you're an adult. And then now I look back and I'm like, wow, that's what she was talking about, and when she said no one owes you anything, And so, don't take people for granted. Don't assume that everybody's going to give you anything. And so now, with the relationships that I'm very fortunate to have, or meeting people, to your point, social media has really, especially for my generation, we just forgot how to introduce ourselves. I mean, we go from like 0 to 10, and we didn't even ask how you were today. And I just think that's just such a lost art.
Yeah.
But we're also still in a time where generationally, peer to peer, individuals like yourself and people like me, where we need to learn how to really balance both in a very delicate way that ultimately shows mutual respect, because that's what you should do, but also being able to delegate in a way that doesn't allow you to seem desperate, but also you showing that sense of respect for other people. And I just think, when we met, for me, especially being in the time that we were in, you never want to make people feel like you're just using them for that moment in time, and that the relationship in how you want it to start and how you want it to grow will be determined by what your interaction was initially. So how you start is how you finish. And I think I just really pride myself on that. And I'm very big on that. It's very hard for me now, because you got to strike that balance on both sides, because I live in a world where that's how my peer group interacts with me. So I have to remember, okay, now what was your name again? Okay, where do we meet from? You got to kind of slow people down a little bit. And I think I've had to learn how to do that as well, Joe. It's not been a skill set that I've had my whole life. I'm guilty for it too. But to your point, with the profession in which I partake in, you have to learn how to build relationships. And I think when we hear that, it is such a cliche term that people just throw around now. They think building relationships is just because you know Kiona because you saw me at a function or you heard me speak somewhere. I think I have a relationship with Joe Goldberg. I know I can call you. I know that you would take my call and vice versa, because we've built a strong foundation off of one interaction, and we've had that space to grow together. And so I'm just very big on that. And I just really am sensitive to that, because no one owes me anything and vice versa. So when people do things for you, or they take their time to give you wisdom or donate their time, and I know you do a lot of that for a lot of charities, you don't have to do that. So I just think we need to learn how to respect each other again, and really be gracious that, everything's not a given. Relationships aren't a given. It's just a part of life, and it's what you make out of them that makes them special.
It's a competitive advantage when you know how to do it, and do it genuinely and do it well, because a lot of people don't or can't at this point. Third question as we round the bases: do you have a favorite piece, a favorite something in the museum, something that just you always get drawn back to?
That's hard. It changes every day, but I would say right now, no pun intended, it really is Buck's statue. Like, I know we're gonna go to Cooperstown and he's gonna have a plaque and we're gonna see a statue and all these great things. But I'm gonna tell you now, it's gonna be one of my tweets before we go on the plane. Ain't a statue like the one at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. I mean, that's my favorite part, because you're essentially greeted by the guy who made it happen. And you can't pass him up. We never passed him up. He always was our guy on the outside looking in and watching over us, and still is today. So I would say probably Buck statue, but also the chicken wire. But it changes. Like, just yesterday, I was downstairs, and one thing about the Negro Leagues and their promotions, whoever, all these designs and just those old school Negro League thing posters, there was something that I saw, and I'm like, I've never seen this. Now, mind you, I've walked through the museum probably about 100 times over. And still to this day, there's something that I find that I'm like, I never saw that. So it changes every day. But I would say right now, it's Buck statue. I go down there every day and I rub elbows with Buck.
That's a pretty good thing. I love it. Last question, the walk-off, same lines. I know you've thought about this. I've thought about it for myself. Have you thought about what it would have been like to have met Buck? I'm sure you hear his voice all the time.
Yeah, I have. And I think, honestly, this was funny. I asked Bob one day, I said, what do you think Buck would have thought about me?
He would have. He would have loved you, and I never even met him.
And Bob goes, "Oh, he would have definitely loved you for sure." And he talks about how Buck of course, Buck loved all the women. Of course, he was not a stranger to women in any capacity. But but I asked Bob that question, and he was just like, "Yeah, I think you and Buck would have hit it off great." And I really got a taste of that really when I was able to sit in Buck's seat. I think that was surreal to me. I felt it was just not. It was weird is not the right word. It was just a way for me to connect with the spirit and humility in which he still resides across our city. Because what Kauffman Stadium does to dedicate a seat to a community member in honor of his legacy and those who represent Buck O'Neil and what he's done for our city, and them championing that same spirit, sitting in that seat really kind of, I think, confirmed why he was so special, and that's probably one of the best seats in the house. But just to know that, okay, this guy literally sat here and I'm sitting in the same seat was really a surreal honor, but also understanding what that meant for me in that moment and everything that I'm doing currently right now as it relates to working for the guy who actually built this place. Can't make this stuff up. So
Nope,
yeah.
you don't need to. Just keep doing what you're doing. Again, for everyone, check out the audio version of this podcast, the longer form version on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your music. Go to the museum. NLBM.com is the website. The museum is at 18th and Vine in Kansas City. Hall of Fame coming up, which means you got a lot of work to do. So I will let you go. Kiona, thanks for spending the time. Loved it.
Thanks, Joe.